We just talked the other day about how The Mandalorian is now like the most in-demand show in the world, depending on whose metrics you look at, but it's a huge, monstrous hit. And I have enjoyed every single episode, loved most of them. That streak came to an end today. And listen, it is inevitable that eventually, no matter, look, I got episodes of Supernatural I don't like. And I've been watching Supernatural for, God, a good chunk of my life. But I came across an episode of Mandalorian. I sat down all excited today to watch today's episode. And we're not going to go into spoilers. There will be one detail that is just an overall encompassing thing. Don't worry, it's not going to ruin anything for you. But I'm going to give one detail about it in case you haven't seen it yet. But it's a minor thing. It's location. That's it. That's all I'm going to give you is location. This was a bad episode. And I'll tell you why. This notion that people keep throwing around of filler episode. No, there hasn't been a single filler episode of Mandalorian yet. You know why? Because every single episode has done work of expounding on the characters, developing the relationships and the dynamics, and furthering the story. Every single episode. Going back to that last one, Sanctuary, which was perfect. It was a part of his journey, like getting to wherever it is he's going to go. That one layover was a part of the journey, and they used that episode to give us the most emotional development of the Mandalorian character himself that we've had in the entire series so far. They did more to evolve the nature of the relationship between Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian so far. They introduced us to a brand new environment that we'd never really been in before in the Star Wars universe. We got introduced to a significant new character who I believe is going to come up for. They accomplished so much in that episode. It was not... Anybody who calls it a filler episode doesn't understand what a filler episode is. And on top of that, what I like to, when people talk about filler episode, I say you are not taking into consideration ROUSs. And people look at me and say, ROUSs? Rodents of unusual size. Look at The Princess Bride. This is just an example. Every movie has this. But look at The Princess Bride. At some point, there are 10, 15, 20-minute chunks where they have now something new they need to do in the path of their movie. That's a part of the overall thing that is a little bit of a sidetrack. Take Princess Bride. When they come into the swamps of despair, yeah, I get impressed. It's been a while. The swamps of despair, and they're coming across the roads of... That's a whole little side story going on there. And while if it was broken up into individual episodes, you might look at the ROUS segment and say, oh, that was a filler episode. No, it was advancing the characters. It was advancing the things we knew. This episode of Mandalorian did none of that. Nothing. When I look back at the last episode of Mandalorian, there are like 5 or 6 key talking points that I can say, oh, we moved from A to B there, and A to B there, and A to B. So much was moved forward. This episode, nothing is moved forward. Nothing new is introduced. There's no evolution in any of the characters. And all it was, and this is the one detail I said, for those of you who haven't seen it, but don't worry, this won't ruin anything, but because the whole episode takes place on Tatooine. And the whole episode was, look, everybody, they're on Tatooine. Remember that? And look, everybody, they're even in Mos Eisley. You remember Mos Eisley? And look, everybody, he's going into the same bar that Obi-Wan. And look, everybody, Dewbacks. And look, everybody, Tusken Raiders. And listen, they said the Dune Sea. Oh, my gosh, she said carbon scoring, just like Luke said in the original movie. It sucked. This was terrible. And they did nothing. By the end of the episode, I mean, literally, you can skip this episode and not be any the worse at all. There was nothing introduced, no new concepts, nothing as far as evolution of the characters. There was nothing of substance to this episode whatsoever. And then how one-dimensional. Hey, I'm the cocky kid. Well, I won't go into that because that would be a detail of the show, but it was terrible, other than the fact that, as you know from the credits, from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ming-Na. Other than her, who I always get a little bit of tingle whenever she's going to be in anything. I love her. She's
made me
awesome.
tingle for years.
Where are you tingling, John?
But this was a complete waste of an episode. Completely poorly done. And I'll tell you what. I didn't even realize Dave Filoni directed and wrote this one. And when the end credits came up, and I'm sitting there like, and Ann was there, I'm like, this episode's really bad. Because I was watching this morning, and as Ann came home, she goes, how's this one so far? And I'm like, this is really bad. I mean, I hope something really significant happens. And 10 more minutes pass, the episode ends. And then I'm looking, I'm watching the trailer, or the credit thing come up. It's like, oh, yeah, Dave Filoni wrote and directed it. It's a cartoon guy doing a live thing. I don't know. It kills a lot of the momentum. I'm just looking forward to next week and seeing them get back on the horse. But anyway, Rob, am I being overly negative? You saw the episode. What did you think about it?
I don't think you're being overly negative at all. What I wanted from this episode, this was episode 5 of The Mandalorian. There's 3 more episodes left. I thought that this back half of the season, the story would kick in. And I figured, okay, where's the Mandalorian going? What does he want? Is there some kind of a plan? No. I thought, oh my God, we've now seen 2.5 hours of this show, and there is no story. Not really. We're getting to know this character, but he's gone through these story beats that have all been stretched out for a half an hour that in another film might be played out in 15 minutes. And I thought, okay, I need to know more about this character. Maybe there's a reason he had a change of heart. Maybe he knows something that we don't know. Maybe there's a reason why his actions. And another thing, I am tired of our central character constantly getting his ass kicked. He's getting his ass kicked when this episode opens, and he gets his ass kicked repeatedly through the movie. And yeah, he comes out in the end. But I'm like, I want to love this guy the way I want to feel like he rolls into town the way Clint Eastwood did, and for a few dollars more, or Fistful of Dollars, or Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where he's kind of one step ahead of everybody. He's kind of got something going on, and I feel like the Mandalorian just kind of wanders around with no direction, no desire to do anything. I mean, where's this story? What is the central thrust of what's going on here? And I thought, here was the episode to do it. That's why I've been waiting on this whole series, and I watched this episode, and like you, John, I'm like, what was the point of that episode? Like, I really wanted to know. What was the point? It showed us nothing. It's even like, there's even characters that we first were, not characters, but let's say.
Let's not go into too much.
No, but there's machines that we've seen before in the prequels that come back, which I hated in the prequels. And they're like comic relief, whatever. I did like the guest star. There's another guest star, Amy
Right.
Sedaris, whose character was kind of funny, but her dialogue was terrible. She was given nothing cool to say. And I'm like, how do you have Amy Sedaris and she's saying things like, you're just going, like when you said, John, one of the first things that comes out of her mouth was cringe. I'm like, really? You're just going to throw me some fan service? This was the most fan servicey episode yet.
Yeah, and I think you just summed it up by saying that I by the end of the episode, I'm like, I cannot tell you what the purpose is. I can tell you what the purpose was of every single episode that came before this. I cannot tell you what on earth they thought they were accomplishing. And by the way, this ultimately is, and by the way, overall, this show has been great. I mean, this show has been, I don't want to sound like I'm suddenly souring on The Mandalorian.
Right.
I think just in the light of how great the show has been, I was really disappointed in this, and a lot of that's got to fall in the lap of John Favreau, too. He's the executive producer of this show. He's the showrunner of this show. He's got to keep his eye on. Anyway, so that's kind of me. I know, Aaron, you're hearing us babble on about this. What are your thoughts?
Well, okay, so I have not seen the episode. Joey and I were getting our beauty sleep in preparation for being on camera today. However, what you're saying is really disappointing to me because I agree with you, Robert. This was the episode. You know, the previous episode, we see that he may be able to have this beautiful long life, you know, living with farmers and letting baby Yoda hang out with the kids. And then all of a sudden people come in and tag and he's like, okay, I have to, you know, sorry, we're able to talk about the previous.
Oh, yeah. We can talk about the previous one.
We're way past that. And so this would be the episode to find out, okay, where is he going? And is he planning on raising this baby alone? And what is his plan? And I'm really disappointed to hear that there is no plan, that it's still just more meandering, because we really need to find that our hero has a purpose. One of the things that I wanted to speak to, John, was when you were talking about filler episodes. You know, filler episodes, they're just part of TV. When you have 22 episodes.
Right.
One of the things that I notice, that are an hour long. One of the things that I always like, I love when I do a guest star spot. I love coming into a show when it's in like the first 4 episodes, because everybody's excited to be back. Everybody's, some people, they're like on the show for the first time. Some people, they're rejoining their family. Everybody's excited. All the writing is new and fresh, and the actors are, young and excited. And by the time you get to episode 17, the actors all look like the crypt keeper. No one has slept. Like the wardrobe department is like, just try something on. If it fits, you'll wear it on camera. The writing is like, just get like, I'm exaggerating, of course. However, you do really feel when you get into, they haven't gotten to that like episode 18. We only have 4 more left. This is the we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. That middle zone, that's when you start seeing filler episodes. But when you only have 8 episodes in a season, that's why we love cable, because those episodes have to be rich, they have to be dense, they have to be thick with material and things driving the story forward. There is absolutely no excuse that for episode 5 of only 8 that you would ever have a quote filler episode. It's the difference between, fast food and going and sitting down and having a $16 burger. When we're watching paid for cable that is dense material, we'll pay the $16 for that burger because it's not fast food. We're not getting it in a drive-through. So I'm really disappointed to hear this. I'm going to watch it anyway, obviously, because, but also as someone who doesn't know all those little details, a lot of this is going to go over my head.
Right.
So,
but let me give a little bit of credit where credit's due.
Please.
I really dig, I won't say what it is, but for those of you who've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. I dug the first 2 minutes. I mean, and that sounds like I'm not. I mean, the first 2 minutes, I really dug. I really loved the opening of this episode, and then it just kind of...
But, one of the things that, like you said, you touched on this, John, this is a show that was supposed to take place, in the Outer Rim territories, a place we haven't seen before in the Star Wars universe. And if you only have 8 half-hour episodes, why go back to one of the most, if not the most, well-trodden places in live-action Star Wars that we've seen? A place that really was never supposed to be that interesting in the first place, because if there's a bright center of the universe, this was the location that it was furthest from. And you've got this whole rich new backstory and area that this place was supposed to take place in, the Outer Rim or whatever, which plays into apparently Rise of Skywalker to a certain extent. And now, in addition to all the dialogue fan service, the whole milieu of the episode was fan service. And I'm like, I was disappointed by that, especially after seeing a new environment in the last episode, and show me something like, you think, does the Mandalorian have any friends? Like, doesn't he have his version of Bespin? Oh, Lando system. We can go somewhere. Like, where's he going? Like, he's flying through space. Why?
Why doesn't he go hang out with all the other Mandalorians?
I mean, that was... I think there's a good reason for that, but I won't go into just because...
they saved his ass in episode...
I know, but I think there's a reason for that. But I won't go into it at this point.
I
just think I would have been okay with him going to Tatooine. I would have been okay with that. If he didn't then just... Now that we're on Tatooine, this planet... I'm going to walk in the exact same footsteps, every same specific locale that we've covered before. I don't know. Anyway, guys, maybe I'm being overly negative.
I will say one thing, John.
What's that?
To not be a negative Nelly, there is one interesting exchange, and I want to ruin it for anybody, that we see familiar characters, and there's an interaction, I thought, in an interesting way that the Mandalorian has that was kind of neat.
I don't want to pretend like or suggest that there was absolutely nothing redeeming about this episode. A couple of interesting moments, but again, unlike the previous episode, nothing was developed, nothing was moved forward, nothing new was introduced. You literally could have skipped this episode, gone from Sanctuary into next week's episode, and you would have thought that you wouldn't know that you missed anything.
And if I could also offer, we have such great genre TV now. Everything from The Expanse to The Boys. And when I see plotting in a half an hour episode, and I don't mean plotting, P-L-O-D-D-I-N-G, plotting. When I see plotting where there's the whole kind of story of the episode where these protagonists are doing this thing and none of it means anything. I'm asking myself, why is the antagonist, so to speak, of this episode, why is any of that happening? It was the most basic, rudimentary, elementary school level story, and we've already seen it in this episode, in this series, and I'm just like, what the hell, man? Do better for me.
All right, well, question here is, guys, have you guys seen this week's episode of The Mandalorian? Maybe it pushed all the right buttons for you and you really enjoyed it. If so, is that the case? Let us know down in the comment section below.